Cheating. It's the word no man ever wants to hear, but the one every man needs to understand. Because when a woman cheats, it isn't random, it isn't reckless, and it isn't what you think. Men cheat to escape. Women cheat to replace. That's the difference most people never talk about. A man can be deeply in love with his partner and still betray her for a fleeting moment of ego, lust, or novelty. But when a woman betrays, it's psychological warfare, premeditated, emotional, and executed with precision. She doesn't cheat because she's bored. She cheats because something in her emotional ecosystem shifted, and her brain starts scanning for a new source of validation. This isn't about morality. It's about biology and psychology working hand in hand. For thousands of years, the female brain evolved not for loyalty, but for security. To survive, women had to attach themselves to the strongest, most resourceful man available. If her partner weakened, physically, emotionally, or socially, her instincts whispered, "Find a better option." And those whispers never went away. They just got dressed up in modern language. I fell out of love. We grew apart. He stopped understanding me. But beneath those words lies the same ancient code. A woman's loyalty lasts only as long as she feels protected, desired, and emotionally nourished. Here's the forbidden truth. Female cheating doesn't start in the body. It starts in the mind. It begins when she feels unseen, undervalued, or emotionally disconnected. It begins when she starts comparing, not just her man to others, but her life to others. The co-workers who flirt, the friend's boyfriend who listens, the fantasy men on her screen, each one becomes an emotional measuring stick. And slowly, piece by piece, she builds a case in her head. I deserve better. By the time she crosses the line, the betrayal has already happened. Emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. The act itself? That's just the confirmation. The real danger is this. Women are experts at emotional camouflage. They can cheat while looking innocent. They can lie while sounding sincere. They can compartmentalize, hold guilt in one hand and justification in the other, and still look you in the eyes and say, "I love you." Not because they're evil, because they're wired to survive emotional contradictions better than men ever could. And that's why male intuition often fails. You're looking for guilt. She's operating through rationalization. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain. We're breaking down the psychology behind female infidelity, how it starts, how she hides it, and why she rarely feels true remorse. By the end, you won't just see cheating differently. You'll understand it. Because once you understand how the female mind works when it betrays, you'll never be blindsided again. Most men think women cheat for the same reasons they do: lust, excitement, or boredom. But that's the first mistake. Because female infidelity isn't about sex, it's about emotion. When a man cheats, it's often impulsive, an ego-driven moment of opportunity. When a woman cheats, it's calculated. A psychological decision that begins long before the act itself. To understand it, you have to stop thinking like a man and start looking through the lens of female psychology. For women, cheating isn't about escaping a man's body. It's about escaping a man's energy. It starts when she feels unseen. When the man who once made her feel chosen begins to drift. When his attention fades. When he's too tired, too distracted, or too focused on his mission. She interprets this not as normal distance, but as emotional abandonment. Her brain, which evolved to attach for survival, now sounds an internal alarm. Something's wrong. I'm not being chosen anymore. And that's when she becomes vulnerable. Not to another man's looks, but to his attention. Because attention is the currency of the female psyche. It's validation, proof of value, confirmation that she's still desirable, still seen. So, when another man enters the picture, a co-worker, a friend, even a stranger, and gives her that lost validation, something awakens inside her. It's not about attraction at first, it's about emotional oxygen. She feels alive again, noticed again, relevant again. And once that emotional circuit reactivates, it's only a matter of time before her mind justifies what her heart already decided. Here's where it gets dangerous. Women don't cheat because they stop loving their partner. They cheat because they stop feeling loved. That distinction is everything. Because once she believes the love is gone, the betrayal doesn't feel wrong. It feels logical. In her mind, she's not betraying you. She's saving herself. This is the emotional loophole that allows her to do what she once swore she never would. She reframes it. He stopped caring. I deserve to be happy. I tried for years. He gave up first. And by the time she crosses the line, she's already built the emotional justification brick by brick. That's why it always catches men off guard. Because the decision was made in silence long before the act ever happened. Female cheating isn't sudden. It's a slow burn, a build-up of unmet needs, suppressed emotions, and quiet resentment that finally finds an outlet. The tragedy is, most men never see it coming because they mistake stability for connection. They assume loyalty means satisfaction. But in the female mind, the moment she stops feeling seen, the countdown begins. Cheating, for her, isn't the cause of a dying relationship, it's dying me. It's a depressed, which you writes, frame. My. And if you don't understand what causes that emotional drift, you'll never see the betrayal until it's too late. Cheating doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins in the mind, long before any physical line is crossed. This is the part most men never see. The psychological build-up, the emotional rewiring, the silent shift in how she perceives you. You see, when a woman starts to drift, she doesn't announce it. She tests it. At first it's small. She pulls away slightly, withholds affection, changes tone. She wants to see if you notice. Not because she wants you to panic, but because your reaction tells her everything. If you chase too hard, she loses respect. If you don't notice at all, she loses connection. These early tests are her subconscious way of measuring your emotional strength. And when you fail them, when you act reactive or indifferent, the psychological setup begins. She starts building emotional distance in her mind. She rewrites the story of your relationship. Moments that were once full of warmth now feel cold. Arguments that used to be resolved are now evidence of incompatibility. She begins to narrate her life like she's already half gone. It's not always malicious. It's instinctual. A woman can't betray you while seeing you as her leader, her protector, her emotional center. So before she cheats, her brain must first dethrone you. She starts seeing you not as her anchor, but as her limitation. And once that mental shift happens, the emotional betrayal is already underway. Now she starts feeding her emotional hunger elsewhere. Harmless conversations, little bursts of attention, messages that feel innocent. But they're not innocent. They're transfers of emotional energy. She's slowly moving her investment away from you, towards someone who makes her feel alive again. She might still sleep beside you, still smile, still say, I love you. But inside, she's living a double reality. 1 foot in comfort, 1 foot in fantasy. And the most dangerous part? She'll convince herself she's doing nothing wrong. Because her brain doesn't register this as betrayal. Not yet. She tells herself she's just talking. Just being friendly. Just getting clarity. In truth, she's feeding her validation loop with a new source of dopamine. That's the real betrayal. Not the act itself, but the shift in loyalty. Once a woman emotionally bonds with another man, even through conversation, attention, or imagination, the relationship you thought you had is already dying. The setup is complete when she starts to see you not as her choice, but as her mistake. And from that point on, everything you do will be interpreted through that lens. If you get upset, you're controlling. If you stay calm, you don't care. You can't win, because you're no longer in her emotional story. By the time the physical betrayal happens, she's already justified it in her mind. To her, it's not cheating anymore. It's moving on. If female cheating begins in the mind, then this is where it becomes an art form. Because once she crosses that invisible emotional line, something fascinating and dangerous happens inside her psychology. She becomes two people. On the outside, she's the same woman you know. Same smile, same voice, same soft gestures. But on the inside, she's building walls. Layers of emotional camouflage that make it almost impossible to see what's really going on. Women have evolved to survive through adaptation. They've learned to mask fear, conceal doubt, and blend in with whatever environment keeps them safe. That same skill becomes her greatest weapon when she cheats. She can compartmentalize, separate her guilt from her actions, her emotions from her behavior. You're looking for guilt in her words, but guilt hides in her silence. When she cheats, she doesn't need to lie outright. She lies through omission, through timing, tone, selective truth. She'll tell you parts of a story, but never the whole. She'll admit to just enough to seem honest, but never enough to incriminate herself. And the scariest part, she convinces herself it's not lying. In her mind, it's protecting you. She'll say things like, "I didn't want to hurt him," or "it didn't mean anything." But those words aren't for you. They're for her. Each justification becomes another brick in the wall, separating her actions from her conscience. You'll start to notice subtle changes, not obvious signs like lipstick on a collar or late-night texts. She becomes emotionally inconsistent. One day, she's affectionate. The next, distant. Her routine feels slightly off, but not enough to call out. Her laugh feels practiced, her warmth slightly delayed. What you're seeing is emotional masking. She's managing two realities, one with you, one with someone else. And every day she balances them, her deception becomes smoother, more natural, more believable. Because here's the dark truth. Most women don't get caught because they're reckless. They get caught because they're tired. The emotional weight of living a double life eventually starts to show. But until that happens, she'll perform her role flawlessly, because she's done it her entire life. Every smile she's forced, every emotion she's hidden, every social mask she's worn. All of it has trained her for this. She doesn't lie like a criminal. She lies like a survivor. That's why men rarely see it coming, because men expect deceit to look like distance. But with women, deceit often looks like love. Carefully maintained, perfectly performed. By the time you start sensing that something's off, the betrayal isn't new. It's already old. You're just now seeing the cracks in the illusion she's been maintaining for weeks, maybe months. Because she doesn't hide it out of malice. She hides it out of instinct. When the act is over, when the affair fades, when the rush dies down, you might think guilt finally catches up to her. But it doesn't. Not in the way you expect. Because female guilt doesn't arrive as confession. It arrives as rationalization. A man feels guilt like a weight. It's heavy, obvious, and immediate. But a woman's mind is more complex. Her emotional intelligence allows her to reframe, to reshape, to rewrite. And that's exactly what she does. You see, the female brain is built to protect her identity above all else. She needs to see herself as the good one, the loving one, the loyal one, even when she's done the opposite. So when she cheats, she doesn't say, "I did something wrong." She says, "I was pushed to do this." This is where the rewriting begins. Every betrayal has a story, and she becomes the storyteller. She'll turn her disloyalty into a survival narrative, one where she's the misunderstood victim, not the deceiver. She'll start collecting moments from the past, small arguments, missed gestures, forgotten words, and use them as emotional receipts. See, she tells herself, that's why I did it. He stopped caring. This is how she rebuilds her moral balance. It's not that she wants to destroy the truth. It's that she can't live with it unaltered. Because if she were to see herself clearly, to see that she traded loyalty for attention, trust for excitement, it would collapse her self-image. So she doesn't face it. She edits it. And this is where the danger lies for men trying to understand. Because when she looks at you after cheating, you expect shame. But what you see is calm. And that calmness feels like coldness. But it's actually a mask built from emotional self-preservation. She's not thinking, I betrayed him. She's thinking, he made me feel invisible. Her guilt becomes your fault. And if you confront her, she'll use that reframing like a shield. You'll hear things like, you were distant. You stopped making me feel loved. I needed to feel wanted again. Each phrase is another brick in the wall, separating her from accountability. Because accepting responsibility would mean confronting pain she can't process. The pain of seeing herself as disloyal, manipulative, or false. So she becomes the hero of her own story. The woman who finally did something for herself. The one who found the courage to leave. It's not evil. It's ego survival. The tragedy is that this mental rewriting makes real healing impossible. Because how can she regret something she's convinced herself was necessary? For men, betrayal feels like a moment. For women, it becomes a narrative, one that justifies the act and absolves the guilt. And by the time she's finished rewriting history, she's no longer the villain. In her mind, she's the victim. Every man who's been betrayed faces the same question. What now? Do you fight to win her back? Expose her? Get revenge? Number. Because the moment you react emotionally, you lose control. And the moment you lose control, you feed the very psychology that led her to betray you. The power isn't in reaction. It's in composure. Understand this. Female cheating isn't just about desire, it's about power. When she cheats, consciously or not, she's shifting the balance of emotional control. She's saying, I decide when this ends. I decide when I feel alive again. And when you chase, when you beg for clarity, when you demand an explanation, you validate that belief. You reinforce her sense of control. But when you stand still, calm, silent, unmoved, everything flips. Because nothing confuses a guilty mind more than indifference. She expects anger. She expects confrontation. She expects tears. But what she can't process is stillness. That's when her narrative starts to unravel. All the justifications. He didn't care. He was too cold. I had no choice. Collapse in the face of your calm. Because your silence forces her to face the truth she's been avoiding. You weren't the weak one. You were simply done. Men often think power comes from dominance, from being loud or aggressive. But real power is emotional control. It's looking betrayal in the eye and not needing validation, closure, or revenge. It's saying with your actions, you can do what you want. I don't need to chase what's already shown its value. Here's the truth. You don't punish betrayal by shouting. You punish it by disappearing. You reclaim power not by trying to fix her behaviour, but by mastering your own response to it. Because the second you stop reacting to women's emotional games, you become immune to them. You stop being the victim of manipulation and start being the observer of it. That's where real masculine strength begins. In detachment, not apathy. Detachment. The ability to care deeply, but never depend. To love fully, but never cling. This is the mindset shift most men never make. They keep trying to solve emotional chaos with logic. But betrayal isn't logical. It's psychological. And psychology rewards stability. When you're calm, grounded, and emotionally centered, you disrupt the entire game. Because now she's the one spiraling. She's the one replaying the story, wondering why you didn't react, why you didn't crumble. Her validation system, the same one that led her to cheat, starts craving your response. And when you give her nothing, she's forced to sit with everything. That's the power shift. Not revenge, not cruelty. Just presence, rooted, unshakable, and silent. Because in the end, the man who learns to control his emotions doesn't just survive betrayal, he transcends it.